Hello, my name is Dale Little, Rescue American Ministries. I want to talk to you just a few minutes and show you an example of what I call mind control, the power of suggestion, and racism. I'll say up front that you don't have to tell me that racism is alive and well in America. I know it is, but you'll find it. You might think it's everywhere, but you'll find some of you find it more places than you think, and in some cases it's less places than you think. Let me explain. I'll be 72 just in a week or two, and I have seen the attitudes of my fellow white people change over the years. And when I was growing up, there was a lot of racism around. I grew up during the 60s and the race riots and all that, Martin Luther King's and the marches and things. And I've seen a drastic difference. And I personally don't know any white supremacists, and if I did, I don't have any use for racists. But I am now seeing more racism, from what I can tell, among black community, especially I'm not saying everybody, but the left-leaning black community, socialist of that nature, Democratic Party, which fosters a lot of this. I'm convinced of it. I mean, that's all they talk about and make the accusations all the time, how racist all white people are. I tried to do a program a little over a year ago, and I called it the biblical discussion on racism from a biblical perspective. And one of the rules, or some of the rules that I set down, was that it was to be a civil discussion, and there was going to be no name calling, no outburst of anger, and we were going to sit down and just talk civilly among ourselves and consider what the Bible says and teaches, and look at the truth of racism. And I couldn't get the participation in it. People would rather, and I'm convinced what it was, people would rather sit down to a computer and social media, and that way they can say what they want to say and, not have to look somebody in the face, and they can, get angry. They can tell what they want without having to face somebody directly to question them about it. And so, unfortunately, that's the way things seem to be going. And I said, well, if this is where I have to address it on social media, then that's where, I have to be. I'm not going to be silenced. I'm not out to cause more division. I'm trying to hopefully get people to see and let us look in our own hearts. And what I see nowadays is that everybody points the finger at people like me, the old white men, old white males, as Democratic Party was fond of saying of the Republican Party there for a while, that sounds pretty racist to me. But they've redefined the definition of racism because white people made that definition, so it must be wrong. And so to ease their own conscience, those on the left, the racist race baiters, what they have done is they've tried to define racism to mean that you have to be in charge, you have to have power, be in a place of power before you can be a racist. Well, that helps to ease their own conscience that way. They can be racist but yet they're not really racist. It's the white man, because he's the one who's got the power, so he's the one that's racist. Well, they're pushing for more and more. That's okay. We're seeing more blacks involved in politics, but unfortunately, a lot of them are on the left, and they're pushing a racist agenda. And what they're wanting and what they're looking for is the day that eventually comes when America no longer be ruled by what they say is the old white men, old white males, or whatever. But blacks will be in charge. And oh, wait a minute now. Blacks will be in charge, or minorities will be in charge. So to be racist, you have to have power. You have to. Do you understand? You're going to have to change your definition of racism again when that happens, and if that happens. Because you're automatically going to become racist then, because you already have racism in your heart. You have the racist attitudes. So according to your definition, all you need is power, and once that comes, then you're the racist then. I've got news for you. You're racist now if you have that attitude. So I want to show you a clip, and I want to show you just how powerful the power of suggestion is. And some of this comes from my own experience, so I'll tell you right quickly. When I was 15, 16 years old, went to get my driver's license and did my driver's test. All my friends had told me that first place I'd go and first place they went was to Parallel Park, and in an area back behind the patrol station where the examiner's office was at. And so as we pulled out of the parking lot with myself and the examiner, I heard him say, turn left. So I turned left, and sure enough, down that next corner was the parallel parking off to the left there. And again, I heard him say turn left as I got there and approached, and so I turned left. I was a little surprised when he didn't have me parallel park. We went on past, went to the next corner, and again I heard him say turn left. I turned left, and finally heard him turn right. After 3 lefts in a row, thought I was going to go in circles for a minute. And he had me go down, make a 3-point turnaround, and finish driver's test. And came back, and he said, I'm afraid I can't give you your license today. You drove good. I didn't have any complaints. Did excellent job. But I told you to take 3 rights, and you took 3 lefts. I have no doubt what that instructor said to take 3 rights. But I heard 3 lefts because it had been planted in my mind. And so that's what I was listening for, and so that's what I heard. And so it is, I'm afraid, that's what we're being taught about racism now, is that racism is not as blatant, not as on display so much as it used to be. You don't see a lot of Ku Klux Klan marches and things like that, like you did when I was growing up, and even as a young adult. And so you have to look for it. That's what you're hearing now. And if you go looking for racism, you're going to find it whether it's really racism or not. This Eusebius McKaiser, I think he's a South African blogger. I'm going to have you listen just a clip here that he made. He's analyzing what a caller called in to say about a photograph that's been circulating on social media. That photograph shows some white kids sitting at a large table and long table, and then a few black kids sitting at a smaller table off to the side, and automatically everybody assumed this is proof of racism in the United States of America. Well, first of all, it was in South Africa. It's not even in America. Now, does racism exist? Yes, it does. I don't, it'd be foolish to say that it doesn't. But as I said before, it exists some places where we don't expect it sometimes. And then places where we would suspect it, it's not there. So he talks about this Lewis Gordon, a philosopher who taught him so much about racism. And so I decided, I need to look up what's this Lewis Gordon teach. And after listening to him, yes, he learned a lot from Lewis Gordon. He learned how to look for racism. You may not be as visible, but you have to look for it. Just get your magnifying glass out and make sure. It's there. You just got to hunt for it and got to listen for it. And so that seed was planted, I'm convinced, in Eusebius McKaiser's mind, because he goes on to blast this caller that called in to dare question about the photograph of the kids sitting at separate tables. And he accused this man of all kinds of things that he did not say. And I'm going to play this backwards. I'm going to play McKiser's response to the caller first, and then I want you to listen to what the caller actually said. You won't hear the caller say or have the accusations of anything like Eusebius McKiser said he did. But is that what McKiser heard? Very well may have been, but it was not what the caller said. But the power of suggestion was there that there is racism there, and so the question had been raised before, well, why do we always put the focus on the black kids? Why not the white kids? Well, this particular caller he did an excellent job of making sure that he did not single out either group. He said, what if the black kids wanted to sit together by themselves over to the other table? What if the white kids wanted to sit themselves over to the other table? And each time he raises that issue, he says, what if this one and what if that one? He never singles the black kids out. But yet that's what McKiser accused him of doing. Listen up as we look at this clip.
Because that caller that you just heard imagines that over time the black kids will assimilate themselves onto the main table, that they will come from the corner little table and slowly develop the confidence to come and play with the white kids. Now my question is, firstly, why are we framing this in terms of the black kids sitting together? At what point are we going to ask the more important question about white agency, white parents, white teachers, and ask of white children, why are all the white kids sitting together in the cafeteria? Why are we always anthropologizing the black kids? And why are we expecting the black kids to be developing confidence over the course of the academic year so they can slowly crawl towards the main table where you have all the white kids huddled together? Why aren't we asking what will it take for one of the white kids to become so confident, able, that they get up from the main table and they go and play with the black kids? And that to me is interesting, because what that call reveals is the expectation that the black kids are the ones that are problematic here in terms of desegregating themselves and lacking the confidence to speak to kids that look different to themselves. And the second problem is the expectation that it is the black kid that needs to learn how to integrate him or herself into the main white table. Why are we not asking the question, what will it take for the white kids to no longer sit together in the cafeteria, to break themselves up and to begin to go and play with the black kids? Let's see what conversation might come out of it.
I don't know, Eusebius. What if the black kids just flocked together? What if the white kids just flocked together? What if it wasn't a racist thing? What if the teacher didn't put them on different tables according to their skin color? I would think that culturally, like, black kids would flock together because they, possibly speak the same language, and white kids would probably flock together because they speak the same language. They share the same culture. Same with the black kids, and I'm sure, like, as time goes by throughout the year, that there would be more talking to each other and more integration and more of them hanging out with each other. But what if it's not a racist thing? What if it's just black kids hanging out with black kids and white kids hanging out with white kids?
Okay, if you listen to that video good, the audio rather, you see what I was talking about. And that's where the mind control comes in. A lot of you don't realize that you're being controlled. You're allowed yourself to, through the power of suggestion, that your mind is controlled and conditioned that racism is much worse than what you think it is. And so you look for it. And so therefore you yourself become racist. And so let's just settle back. There's plenty of racism out there without having to manufacture it and have to be made up. Thank you. Dale Little, Rescue American Ministries.